Hello everyone. Today we discuss the growing geopolitics of the Indian Ocean region. Indian Ocean is the third largest ocean in the world, covering 70,560,000 kilometers square, holding 19.8% of the water by volume on Earth's surface. It is bounded by Asia to the north, Africa to the west, Australia to the east, and to the south it is bounded by Southern Ocean or Antarctica, depending on the definition in use. Along its core, it has some large marginal or regional seas such as Arabian Sea, Laccadive Sea, Somali Sea, Bay of Bengal, and the Andaman Sea. Australia, Indonesia, and India are the three countries with major shorelines and exclusive economic zones. The sea lanes in Indian Ocean are among the most strategically important in the world, with more than 80% of the world's seaborne trade in oil transiting through it and its vital choke points, with 40% passing through Strait of Hormuz running between Arabian Sea and Persian Gulf, 35% through the Strait of Malacca connecting South China Sea to Indian Ocean between Indonesia and Malaysia, 8% through Bab el-Mandeb Strait connecting Gulf of Aden to the Red Sea. Thus, it provides major sea routes connecting Asia, Africa, Middle East with Europe and Americas. It carries a heavy traffic of petroleum and petroleum products from the oil fields of Persian Gulf and Indonesia. An estimated 40% of world's offshore production of oil comes from the Indian Ocean. Beach sands, rich in heavy minerals and offshore placer deposits, are actively exploited by bordering countries like India, Pakistan, South Africa, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. Chinese companies have made investments in several Indian Ocean ports like Gwadar in Pakistan, Hambantota and Colombo in Sri Lanka, Sonadia and Chittagong in Bangladesh. This has sparked debate about the strategic implications of these investments. On the context of the Chinese interest in investments in Indian Ocean, string of pearls is an interesting concept. It's a geopolitical theory on potential Chinese intentions beyond trade in the Indian Ocean region. It refers to the network of Chinese military and commercial facilities and relationships along its sea lines of communication, which extend from the eastern coast of China mainland to the port of Sudan in the Horn of Africa. These sea lines run through major maritime choke points like Strait of Mandeb, Strait of Hormuz, Strait of Malacca, and Lombok Strait, as well as other strategic maritime centers in Pakistan, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Somalia. The term string of pearls as a geopolitical concept was first used in an internal US Department of Defense report, Energy Futures in Asia, in 2005. The term is also widely used in India's geopolitical and foreign policy narratives to highlight India's concerns over massive Chinese Belt and Road Initiative projects across southern Asia. The formation of quadrilateral security dialogue consisting of US, India, Australia, and Japan is a direct result of China's assertive foreign and security policy in the Indo-Pacific region. China's rapid economic development over the last quarter century has been heavily dependent upon the foreign sources of energy. And it is likely that foreign sources of energy will prove even more critical to the continued growth of the Chinese economy. China is the world's largest oil consumer and the largest oil importer. Oil imported from the Gulf states and Africa comprises 70% of total Chinese oil imports and remains China's most critical source of energy apart from domestic coal burning and nuclear power. To meet future demands, China has signed a number of long-term contracts to develop Iranian oil fields and to build a pipeline, refinery, and port in Sudan for oil export. The overseas transport of oil from the existing production areas will continue to remain the primary mode of energy importation for the foreseeable future for China, since the efforts to secure new supply lines in Central Asia have proven difficult due to many reasons, at least till the completion of the Silk Road. Hence, the sea lines of communication that link the Chinese mainland with ports throughout the Middle East and coast of Africa have become a major source of conflict with respect to China's energy security. China's positions in the Indian Ocean consist primarily of commercial ports owned and operated by Chinese firms as well as resupply stations operating in agreement with the Chinese central government. However, Chinese investment in Hambantota in Sri Lanka is seen by some Indian analysts as reflective of a wider encirclement strategy on the part of the Chinese. Similar port construction projects are also underway in Kyakpyu in Myanmar and Bangladesh. The Chinese government has financed a container shipping facility in Chittagong, which is widely identified as a pearl in the string. However, despite reports of Chittagong's potential military role for the Chinese, the Bangladeshi government has insisted that the port is of an entirely commercial nature and declared it off limits to military vessels. Furthermore, given Bangladesh's close economic ties to India and agreements for the expansion of Indian investment in Bangladeshi infrastructure projects, Chittagong's military significance for the Chinese is exaggerated beyond facts as reported. Chinese state-owned companies are also responsible for the construction of a railway link between Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, and Port Sudan, the country's major port on the Red Sea. Although Sudanese oil makes up only a fraction of total Chinese imports, China has invested over $10 billion in infrastructure projects in the country to take advantage of its substantial oil reserves. Chinese operations in Port Sudan are substantial but limited completely to the oil export. China has also invested in the port in Bagamoyo, Tanzania, to handle 20 million shipping containers annually, and the Chinese government has denied that this investment is intended to create a military capability. However, the Chinese People's Liberation Army support base in Djibouti is a military base operated by the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy, located in Djibouti in the Horn of Africa. It is the plan's first overseas military base and was built at a cost of $590 million US. Djibouti is strategically situated by the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which separates the Gulf of Aden from the Red Sea and guards the approaches to the Suez Canal. The Chinese base is located by the Chinese-operated port of Dorale to the west of Djibouti city. To the south of the city are several other foreign military bases, including US Navy, French Air Force, and Japan Self-Defense Force. The facility is expected to significantly increase China's power projection capabilities in the Horn of Africa and the Indian Ocean. In 2015, Beijing preferred to classify its first overseas military base as a logistic facility, assigning it a limited number of missions like participation in UN peacekeeping operations, anti-piracy escort missions in the Gulf of Aden, and humanitarian relief. However, Chinese officials now in 2020 endorse the idea that this logistical facility is actually a military support base and that Djibouti is China's first but probably not last overseas strategic strongpoint to protect China's growing international security interests. The base includes personnel from various branches including Marines and Special Forces. It is equipped with a heliport which can also be used by drones. Underground, the base is equipped with cyber and electronic warfare facilities. The PLA's new naval base is not limited to protecting strategic sea lanes of communication, but counter-terrorism and intelligence collection are also part of its missions. The PLA's Djibouti base contributes to securing China's economic and security interests in Africa, the Middle East, and the Red Sea. The port at Gwadar, which is connected to the Karakoram Highway linking western China and the Arabian Sea, is of even greater concern to the Indian government, which views it as a powerful evidence of Chinese and Pakistani collusion against Indian security and economic interests. For the Pakistani government, the Gwadar port is seen as having the potential of hedging against a potential Indian blockade of the port of Karachi, which currently handles 90% of Pakistani seaborne trade. For the Chinese central government, which has funded the majority of the $1.2 billion construction, Gwadar represents an important strategic foothold situated only 240 miles from the Strait of Hormuz connecting Arabian Sea to the oil-rich Persian Gulf. In 2015, the state-owned China Overseas Port Holding Company was officially granted control of the port's operation, further consolidating Chinese influence over the Gwadar project. As per recent reports, a new Chinese high-security compound has been detected in the satellite imagery from the Gwadar region of the Balochistan province in Pakistan. As per analysts, The compound in question has extensive security of questionable levels. It has anti-vehicle berms, security fences and a high wall. Sentry posts and elevated guard towers cover the perimeter between the fence and the inner wall. This suggests armed guards with rifles. Apart from the main compound, there are two other smaller sites that have been built in the last year that have rows of blue roof buildings. Experts suggest that these might be actually barracks for a Chinese Marine Corps garrison where Beijing had previously been reported to be deploying Marines in 2017. According to the latest satellite images and reports, the Chinese leased Maldivian island of Fedu Finolu Island has undergone a massive facelift too. The island, leased until 2066 by China from the Maldivian government for $4 million, has seen a dramatic increase in size from 38,000 square meters to 1 lakh square meters and is undergoing rapid construction as well. The construction on this island, as well as the facelift, mirrors Chinese actions on the Spratly Islands in the South China Sea, wherein, after denying any militarization ambitions, Beijing did acknowledge creating a military base on the island and had justified its actions by saying that it has a natural right as a sovereign nation. For India, the Indian Ocean region and the countries located in the region, including the Maldives, are of strategic importance, and India considers them as a part of its sphere of influence. Secondly, the geographical proximity of a base at Fedu Islands poses a direct threat to Indian security and freedom of movement in the Indian Ocean. If established, the Chinese military base would be only 900 km away from the Minicoy Island in the Union Territory of Lakshadweep and close to 1000 km from the Indian mainland. The Chinese military outposts could be used to dock nuclear submarines in the region or collect hydrological data to track subsurface operations of India like deployment submarines. If and when the base is established, China would have surrounded India on all three sides in the Indian Ocean. Thus, coming to India's concerns, China's maritime strategy comprises four key components. First, to secure its maritime trade and economic interests in the Indian Ocean region. Second, preparedness for maritime combat and non-combat operations. Third, to undermine India's geostrategic influence in the Indian Ocean region. And fourth, to overcome the threat of US naval dominance. Beijing's ultimate objective is to emerge as a global maritime power capable of commanding the far seas and oceans. In a news conference in December 2017, the Indian Chief of the Naval Staff had noted that 8 ships of the Chinese PLA Navy were regularly deployed in the Indian Ocean, including nuclear-powered submarines. China has sold 10 submarines to India's closest neighbors, 8 to Pakistan and 2 to Bangladesh, and has established a naval base in Djibouti. It would not be inconceivable for Beijing to dispatch an aircraft carrier strike group to the region in the not too distant future. India has been steadily taking steps to expand the scope of its activity in the Indian Ocean since 2001. It has modernized its bases on the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which are near the Malacca Strait, established naval surveillance facilities in Madagascar and Mauritius, and launched a military satellite to enable communication even while far offshore. It began making annual tours of countries around the Indian Ocean with small divisions of around 4 ships. In 2016, the Indian Navy hosted an international fleet review in which over 100 warships from 50 countries participated. And in May 2018, India decided to station fighter jets in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands to be prepared for the entry of Chinese carrier groups into the region. These maneuvers require access rights to ports in each country. In 2016, India secured such rights to Diego Garcia from the US, to the port of Dam from Oman, and to Reunion Island from France. And in 2018, it reportedly reached agreement with the government of Seychelles to build a base on Assumption Island. India's second approach to enhance its military presence is to provide capacity building assistance for countries in the region. Such assistance may be provided in either India or the recipient country or consists largely of financial support. Malaysian fighter jets, for instance, were brought to India for servicing, and Singapore has already a long-term arrangement for the use of India's training grounds. Further, Indian military personnel have been stationed in Maldives, Seychelles, and Mauritius to train local troops in the use of the patrol planes, helicopters, and boats that were supplied to those countries. Financial assistance has increased conspicuously since 2017 when it was agreed to furnish $500 million in aid for the Bangladesh Air Force, with the objectives to acquire a first-hand understanding of the state of Bangladesh military aircraft. Should Bangladesh become dependent on India for the purchase of parts, moreover, it may even be possible to choke off supplies and keep the fighter jets grounded. Bigger yet, India can also leverage the aid to prevent its neighbor from purchasing jets from China, preventing PLA from gaining a permanent holding at a Bangladeshi air base. The Quadrilateral Security Dialogue (QSD), also known as Quad, is an informal strategic forum between the US, Japan, Australia, and India that is maintained by semi-regular summits, information exchanges, and military drills between member countries. The forum was initiated as a dialogue in 2007 by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe of Japan with the support of Vice President Dick Cheney of the US, Prime Minister John Howard of Australia, and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh of India. The dialogue was paralleled by joint military exercises of an unprecedented scale, titled Exercise Malabar. The diplomatic and military arrangement has been widely viewed as a response to increased Chinese economic and military power, and the Chinese government responded to the Quad by issuing formal diplomatic protests to its members. The first iteration of the Quad ceased to exist following the withdrawal of Australia in February 2008. However, during the 2017 ASEAN summits, all four former members rejoined in negotiations to revive the quadrilateral alliance, with Prime Minister Turnbull of Australia, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe of Japan, Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India, and President Donald Trump of the US agreeing in Manila to revive the security pact among tensions in the South China Sea caused primarily by China and its territorial ambitions. In July 2020, India, Japan, and US are in talks to invite Australia for a coordinated Navy exercise at Malabar 2020, which is scheduled at the end of the year. Australia is most likely to join the Navy exercise. The last time Australia participated in the naval drill was in 2007 along with Singapore. Exercise Malabar is a trilateral naval exercise involving the US, Japan, and India as permanent partners. Originally begun in 1992 as a bilateral exercise between India and US, Japan became a permanent partner in 2015. Past non-permanent participants are Australia and Singapore. On Monday, 20th July 2020, Indian and US navies conducted a joint exercise at the Andaman and Nicobar Islands in what has been construed as a signal of intent to China following the bloody border confrontation in mid-June that came at the cost of 20 Indian Army personnel. The exercise included India's INS Rana, INS Sahyadri, INS Shivalik, and INS Kamorta linking up with the US Nimitz carrier strike group as it transited through the Indian Ocean from the Malacca Strait and onwards to the Persian Gulf. The message was further amplified when Jaguar maritime strike fighters were stationed in the Andaman and Nicobar archipelago that dominates China's critical sea trade route passing through the Malacca Strait. The stationing of Jaguars in the Andaman and Nicobar archipelago underlines Indian Air Force capability to support Indian Navy in dominating the Indian Ocean region and swing into action when required. It strengthens India's military posture against Chinese vulnerability in the Indian Ocean region. The strategically located Andaman Nicobar Command, the country's only command with all the assets and manpower of Army, Navy, Air Force and Coast Guard placed under one operational commander, can be used as an effective pivot to counter China's expanding footprint in the Indian Ocean region. India is now finally looking into fast-tracking plans for basing additional military forces along with developing the requisite infrastructure in the Andaman and Nicobar Command. To summarize, the last few months have deepened the world's understanding of China's expansionary intent. Hence, greater cooperation among the Quad countries has become inevitable without reservations. The clash at Galwan has permanently scarred the complexion of Sino-Indian ties. The imperative now for India is to set aside past assumptions that have guided its China policy and in doing so expand its military and defense ties with other Quad nations, US, Japan and Australia to counterbalance China's maritime aggression. Analysts say Quad constitutes a comprehensive game plan against China's geopolitics in the Indo-Pacific region. Hence, it is certainly shaping up to become the spine of India's Indo-Pacific policy. That's all for today. Thank you.